SnowTrax is brought to you by Polaris. Think outside. Ski-Doo. Winter lovers, get out there and experience that Ski-Doo feeling. Arctic Cat. Share our passion. Royal Distributing. Canada's power sport leader. And by Climb. Technical riding gear.
A few years ago, I had the chance to go to Franklin County, New York to go snowmobiling and had the best time. The invitation got extended again last February to go back to upstate New York. So I thought this time though, I'm gonna do something a little different and decided to bring my brother Matt along.
A few years ago, I was up in the Adirondacks with my daughter and we had a great time up here. So when I heard Mike was coming up for a ride, I decided to jump at the opportunity to go with him. And it couldn't have been more fun to spend some time with my brother and see what upstate New York has to offer.
So Matt and I actually worked together, and we used to travel quite a bit when we did sales for SnowTrax magazine, but you know, we're just busy guys, and it's been a few years since we've had a chance to do anything like this, so this was gonna be a good time. So the first stop on our trip is Lake Placid, New York, which is about 3 hours from Ottawa or 2 to 3 hours from Vermont or Albany. So on the way to the hotel though, we stopped at Saranac Lake at Lake Placid Sled and Spoke to pick up some rental sleds.
Yeah, so we're here at Lake Placid Sled and Spoke in Saranac Lake, New York. We're located right here on the Adirondack Rail Trail. Direct access to the trail, which is awesome. We're Polaris Adventures Outfitter. We started last year. We're avid snowmobilers, my business partner and I, so starting Lake Placid Sled and Spoke was always a dream of ours to kind of get more people introduced to the sport. You know, there's a real big community up here of snowmobilers. A lot of people use snowmobiles to commute up here, but introducing it to tourists in the area has been a big effort of ours, and it's been really successful this winter.
The rental sleds we picked up ended up being pretty much brand new 650 Switchback XCs, which is so awesome to get new iron for a trip like this. And you know, the people at Sled and Spoke are really cool and they're accommodating, and their location is right off the rail line. So if you're renting from there, you can get right onto the rail line and ride from there. So we got up bright and early the next morning, you know, had a nice breakfast in the great room at the hotel, and then got right at it, started unloading the sleds and getting ready for a good day of riding.
So we're here at Crown Plaza, Lake Placid. The trailhead is right here. It'll take us to Saranac Lake, and from there you can go to Tupper Lake. It's such easy access, great parking in the Crown Plaza, right at the top of the most beautiful vista in Lake Placid. It's going to be an incredible day. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, there's tons of snow here today, way more snow than I've seen in a while, so I'm really excited. From everything I'm hearing, the trails are incredible. My experience in New York State has always been excellent, so I'm guessing it's going to be another dynamite day.
Yeah, so when we were planning this trip, I researched everything and made sure that we were going to hit the best trails possible. Mike, of course, he wants to be the leader, but I took the lead.
When I first told Matt about this trip, he got like super excited, you know. He started researching the area and looking up the trails, being the exceptionally kind and wonderful brother that I am. When it came to riding, I just let him take the lead. So once we were all ready, we took the trail right out of the parking lot, connected onto C7B out of Lake Placid, down towards Saranac Lake and onto Tupper Lake. The ride down to Tupper Lake was beautiful. You know, they've built brand new causeways that cross over the waterways. And, you know, you're passing lakes and you're passing forests, and, you know, there's the opportunity too to crank up the wick just a little bit too.
So the first day, the rail trail is just basically wide open. Pretty easy, straight beeline, but fun because you're able to pick up the speed a little bit, and there was some amazing scenery still.
So on our way to Tupper Lake, we actually passed by Charlie's Inn, which I'd actually stopped at the last time I was riding in this area, and we had lunch there. And from this junction, you can actually carry on from C7 towards Tupper Lake or you can turn off and go towards Malone for a completely different riding experience. Also worth mentioning, if you are actually staying in Tupper Lake, once you get your sleds all tucked in for the night, you should head over to Racket River Brewing. It was a really cool local pub. You can get a local beer there, and it's pretty cool atmosphere for hanging out. So we got gas in Tupper Lake and grabbed a quick snack, but we'd heard about this really cool restaurant that was back in Saranac Lake that just opened up called the River Trail. We made note of that on the way down and we're like, you know what, let's go back there and grab something to eat. So by the time we started heading back towards Saranac Lake, we were feeling pretty hungry and wanted something a bit more than just a power bar. So this was a good chance for us to squeeze the throttle a little harder and see what our sleds could do. So we parked our sleds at the river trail and went inside and had an amazing lunch. This place is actually so cool. It's brand new. Has a massive, fully heated patio and then an awesome dining room. And if you're looking for something to do that's a little different, that's not snowmobiling, they actually have golf simulators. So that's a pretty fun option for you.
From the service, you can tell that the servers are trained properly. We had so many people come by our table to make sure everything was great, and the food quality was incredible. So if you're gonna be in Saranac Lake, definitely stop in at the River Trail.
We rolled back into Lake Placid that night and parked in the brand new snowmobile parking lot that's just outside the Crown Plaza. And this lot's really cool. It overlooks the entire town, and then there's Mirror Lake in the background. It's absolutely beautiful. This parking lot's like literally steps away from the town, so you can walk in and there's restaurants and there's shops, and it's a tourist town, so there's lots of people walking around at night and the whole place is lit up with Christmas lights. It's a really cool vibe. So after dinner, we decided to go for a little walk, and check out some of the Olympic heritage in Lake Placid, and we happened to stumble upon something pretty cool.
So on our last night in Lake Placid, we had the opportunity to walk around town a little bit, and it was so beautiful. But we saw the place where the Miracle on Ice happened, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's a very historical event in 1980, almost 45 years ago. Basically, an amateur U.S. hockey team upset the highly favored Soviet Union at the time. And the significance of that event was that it was during the Cold War. When I remember hearing about that upset, I was only a young child, and seeing the significance of what that did for hockey and what that did for humanity. When I was, for years I coached my girls in hockey, and Herb Brooks was the one who motivated his team to really believe that they could upset the Soviet Union. Being able to relate as a coach and stand there and take it all in years later was pretty amazing.
The next morning, we walked into town and grabbed a breakfast and a coffee at Origin Coffee House, which is a really nice little cafe that's right across from the Olympic speed skating oval. And we also had a chance to catch up with our friend Cody Updike from Roost 80K. And we learned a little more about the area of Lake Placid and what snowmobiling means to this area.
Yeah, if you're coming into Lake Placid, there's a lot to do besides just outdoor recreation. Yeah, we got hiking, snowmobiling, cross-country skiing, whatever you want. You come into town here and besides food, there's some of the Olympic venues. There's the 1980 rink where Miracle on Ice happened. You can head to the Olympic Museum, ski jumping, World Championships. That's a pretty popular spot. People from all over the world come and watch ski jumping. They hold biathlon over at Van Hovenberg. Spectators are welcome there, as well as the Bobsled World Cup happens here most years as well, at least part of the tour. Hockey tournaments happen quite often here in Lake Placid. You come watch those. They happen both on the 1980 rink, 1932 rink. Also, they do some wild hockey playing out on Lake Placid, Mirror Lake. If you're coming to snowmobile in Lake Placid as well, there's the Whiteface Mountain, which is a ski resort just down the road in Wilmington. It's about a 15-minute drive right out of town. Pretty good skiing there. They hold ski races quite regularly, but the mountain itself is beautiful. Views from the summit, incredible.
So we'd already experienced a rail line and a tourist town, so we decided to try something completely different and loaded up our sleds and drove towards Long Lake, New York to stay at the Adirondack Hotel and check out the trails around there. The Adirondack Hotel is located on Main Street in Long Lake, and it's the oldest operating hotel in the Adirondacks. It's been a family-owned place for decades and is famous in the area. The rooms are rustic and cozy, and the whole place has this nice cottagey vibe to it. Plus, the whole place is snowmobile friendly, and there's direct access to an amazing trail network right outside the hotel. We got to the hotel late morning and decided to just gear up and head towards Indian Lake to grab some lunch. C7B is just a really short scoot from the hotel and connects you onto some of the nicest trails in the area. And after having a crappy snow season the year before, this was just like being in heaven.
The snow conditions are incredible up here. It's been snowing nonstop since we've been here, and we couldn't have asked for a better situation for riding. And we had a great day because we were the first ones to ride behind the groomer who had been out just a couple hours ago. It was like peanut butter all the way up to Indian Lake. The trails were amazing.
Shout out to the Indian Lake Snow Warriors Club for doing such a great job maintaining these trails. We reached the junction that goes to Newcomb. So if you're coming from Newcomb, there's a snowmobile parking lot there where you can leave your trailers and unload. And if you're coming from Newcomb towards the junction, it's about an 8-mile ride. And from there, you can either go back from where we came from towards Long Lake, or you can cut off to go towards Indian Lake, which is where we were headed. We rode into Indian Lake. The signage was really good and helped us get into town. And any, turns that we were unsure of, we just referenced our 7S displays, which were actually really handy to have for this trip. We gassed up at Stewart's Shops and walked across the street to the Indian Lake restaurant for a burger. There's lots of options in town, like McSweeney's, Bear Trap, or Indian Lake Restaurant, and they're all snowmobiler friendly. So if you're riding this route, you won't go hungry after a good day of riding. After lunch, we hit the trails again back towards the Adirondack Hotel, for more great riding. And I love riding 850s and turbos, but that 650 is such a great mill. There's so much power on tap. It's the perfect amount for riding these trails. Like they're zigzagging through the forest, and you squeeze the throttle, and it's just so much fun. We rolled back into the parking lot feeling fantastic, and once our sleds were all shut down for the night, we went in, got changed, and headed into the restaurant for something to eat and have a few adult beverages.
In thinking about the last few days we've spent here in the Adirondacks, it's just been such an incredible experience. Getting to travel with my brother. We're business partners. We're always doing things separately. To be able to spend time together and experience this together has been amazing. We recommend the Adirondacks to any snowmobiler looking for something different. The people are going to be welcoming. If you're coming from Canada, you're crossing the border is simple. We had no troubles at all. If you're from another state or even in New York State, make the trip to the Adirondacks. You won't be disappointed. It's just an incredible spot. You get such a variety of trails. You can get flatland. You can go up to elevations, and they'll look after you, and you won't be disappointed. From the hotels, from the restaurants. It's just been such a great trip.
I guess if I had to sum up this trip and make my own recommendations for riding here, I think I'd put it like this. Lake Placid was awesome, and it's the perfect place to bring your spouse or your whole family. Crowne Plaza is beautiful, and there's shopping and restaurants located steps away from the hotel's front door, and the town is deeply rooted in Olympic heritage. You can access the rail line right from the hotel, which is super easy to navigate and has tons of nice scenery. Plus, you can stop in at the River Trail, which is just off the rail line. If you're looking to book an annual trip or a regular trip with your riding buddies with access to more aggressive riding on some of the most beautiful trails in North America, plus a more rustic hotel experience that welcomes you with open arms, make your way over to Long Lake to the Adirondack Hotel. At this rate, I get the chance to go back to New York State to go riding every couple of years. I can't wait to see where my next New York adventure takes me. Excellent riding, great places to stay, and amazing people. The Adirondacks really has it all.
SnowTrax has been brought to you by MVRP Performance Exhaust. Make your sled stand out. Shock strap. Start strapped, stay strapped. Caliber, engineered for adventure. Dalton Industries, tunability, precision, innovation. Let yourself be inspired by the Laurentians in Quebec. And by FXR, brings you more.
The XCR 9R in 2025 won SnowTrax's coveted Real World Sled of the Year award. And while for 2026 they didn't need to change anything at all on this snowmobile, because it's an XCR, they take anything that they learn in cross-country racing and bake it into the new sled. And that's where the longtail comes to play. What is a longtail? It kind of sounds like the rear tunnel or skid frame might be extended, but no, it's nothing like that at all. The longtail refers to the rear suspension torsion springs and the actual length and poundage of those springs, as well as where they now mount. This feature is only on the 137 version of the XCR, and it helps to improve bottom out as well as throttle on steering characteristics, so Polaris says. This was learned through testing on the cross-country race sleds and directly adapted to the new 2026 137 version of the XCRs. Now, along with this new longer torsion spring is a suspension calibration increase that goes hand in hand with the longtail that's going to help you on your XCR to choose through the absolute worst conditions that the ditches, approaches, or any trail can throw at you. A 20% more aggressive suspension calibration has been added to the already very potent Walker Evans Velocity shock package, and as I said earlier, when linked in harmony with those long torsion springs, delivers the bottom out and power on steering improvements that Polaris says. How noticeable? Well, considering this sled is built for the aggressive rider who's looking to get the sled off the ground on the ditch approaches and pound as hard as you can through the roughest trails, just because you can, it's noticeable. Do I think the XCR needed a 20% increase in aggressiveness on the shock calibration and springs? Nope, not at all. Everyone I know who has one from 2025 thought that they were incredible. Does it hurt the handling? It actually does. But be prepared if you're looking to buy an XCR that this sled is the firmest riding XCR that we have ever ridden. And if you want something that's a little softer, you're gonna have to look to a VR1. Now, if you're a die-hard Polaris XCR rider, you probably have noticed that I said 137. And no, that is not a typo on the tunnel. When it comes to the length, XCRs are almost always 136 as previous, but for this year in 2026, Polaris changed that up and went to 137, so now you have the standard track lengths and driver pitch. While only the 137 gets the longtail torsion springs, both the 129 and 137 now receive dual extrovert drivers to help resist ratcheting and track slippage. In the past, Polaris wasn't willing to negotiate on this, but through race testing of these drive cogs, Polaris has found excellent resistance to ratcheting under high loads and high power in racing situations, and are confident in the crossover to the XCR platform. Well, those are the only real differences on the XCR for 2026. Did Polaris really need to change anything, is my question, because the 25 was so good. But that's what the XCR is all about, the trickle-down effect of technology that they learn from the racetrack making it to the trail sled. But do trail riders really want all of those track features? Okay, so maybe there's another small change, but not to the platform or design of the sled, but in options that you can get your XCR in, is the lack of an 850 engine. We all knew that the Boost was going to be the VR1 exclusive and the 9R was going to be an XCR thing, but seeing as the XCR is the top of the performance category, it makes sense to offer it with just the 650 and the 9R engine options. And the 9R all through 2025 didn't show 1 ounce of an issue, nor a single complaint from anyone that we talked to or who got the chance to ride ours. The power delivery is strong, yet trailable at lower speed. The clutching is confident at low RPM and not overly aggressive, yet when you mesh the throttle to the grip, Star Trek-like warp speed lines blur your vision. It really is the engine that does it all. As angry as a junkyard dog, but as tame as a kitten. Not sure what kind of magic Polaris sprinkled on the XCR assembly line, but I know for certain this 9R works. Now, keeping in line with 2025, the Walker Evans Velocity 2-inch body shocks are the only way that you can order your XCR for 26. But what I'd like to see is a snow check option where you can go back to the previous spring and compression settings of the 2025 sleds. Much like mountain sleds can sometimes have a mountain calibration or a sea level. Do I personally think it would also be a great idea for Polaris to offer the XCR with a dynamics option? Yeah, I sure do. Why? Because I think there are VR1 riders who want the 9R and likewise XCR riders who want dynamics. And at the end of the day, why the heck not? I know the policy at Polaris is only pure race-bred DNA goes into the XCR, and I understand that they don't want it to get washed out, but maybe allowing users to predefine and mildly tune their dynamic settings through an XCR exclusive 7S adjustment screen could add a little more racy uniqueness. And that's what Polaris says it's all about with no hesitation or apologies. A race-bred Indy that receives everything they learn from the racetrack to make your ride that much better.
Make sure to subscribe and comment below for real interaction with the SnowTrax crew.